If you don't listen to me, we're getting a divorce. I'd rather divorce a husband who says such selfish things. I accept the divorce that my husband dealt me. He looks at me with a smug smile, not knowing what will happen next. My name is Emily. I got married 5 years ago, and I'm 35, living just with my husband. Although I'd like to have children, we've not been blessed yet. We've considered fertility treatment, but due to my husband's opinion, we decided not to pursue them, leaving it to nature. If we can't have them, it's still a life living, just the two of us. My husband said that, and it helped to ease my mind a bit. After we got married, both of my husband's parents passed away, one after another, which left us no time for treatments. Truth be told, my husband is quite dominant. My husband was originally senior at work. In front of relatives, he'd refer to me as his foolish wife, and if I made a mistake, he'd scold me without mercy. Since our relationship was hierarchical before marriage, it continued even after marriage. This may make my husband sound like a bad person. He has his gentle side too. When I was his subordinate, he gave me accurate advice and guidance when I made mistakes or when things didn't go well, and he'd express his appreciation for my hard work. More importantly, he was the one who encouraged me when my beloved grandfather passed away and I was feeling down. This led us to start dating and eventually got married. After getting married, I retired, and I'm now a full-time housewife. Hey Emily, I'm home. Welcome home. My husband usually gets home after 9 p.m. Being a manager, he has a lot of work and is almost always in overtime. You're late again today. You must be tired. I pick up the shirt and socks that my husband has taken off and talk to him. He just sits on the sofa and doesn't say a word. It's always like this. He must be really tired. I start preparing dinner for him, and when I finish serving him, he begins to eat without a word. After he finishes eating, in about 10 minutes, he heads to the bathroom. I prepare a bath towel and underwear for him and start cleaning up after dinner. And when he comes out of the bath, he goes straight to the bedroom. My husband has always been a man of few words, but I wonder if the recent promotion has been building up his fatigue. For the past year or so, there's been very little conversation between us. But even so, I trust and love my husband, because he was the one who was with me when I had the hardest time. I lost my father in middle school and my mother in my freshman year of high school. Afterwards, I was taken in by my grandfather and raised by him. My grandfather, who treated me like his own daughter and loved me dearly. I adored my warm and kind grandfather. I wanted to give back to my grandfather when I started working. With that thought, I saved money after getting a job, took my grandfather on trips, and shared delicious meals with him. The time I spent with my grandfather was enjoyable, and I wished for him to stay healthy and energetic forever. However, 3 years after I started working, my grandfather passed away from lung cancer. I was literally left all alone. I knew I would have to part with my grandfather someday, but I didn't expect it to come so soon. Wished I could have done more for my grandfather. We could have spent more time together. I was so sad, spending every night crying. The person who noticed my change was my then boss, my husband. My husband genuinely listened to me, saying, "You've been through a lot. You did well." I was truly lucky to have him as my boss. Normally a stern and intimidating boss, my husband was gentle with his words at that time. I'm sure he is a kind man deep down. I know that. That's why I want to continue to serve him. I think so. On such a day off in the afternoon, the home phone rang. Hello? Oh, Emily, it's me. The caller was my husband's younger brother. Oh, long time no see. What's up? I need to speak to my brother. Is he around? Sure, hold on a sec. I called out to my husband, who was lounging in the living room. You have a phone call? As expected, there was no response. Without a word, my husband took the phone. Hello? Hey, how are you? What's up? His face, which had been soured just a moment ago, immediately turned into a smile when he picked up his brother's call. My brother-in-law, who was 15 years younger than my husband. Perhaps because of the age gap, my husband dotes on him a lot. I hear that he is living a blissful life with his beautiful wife he got 2 years ago. But I wonder what's up. Ah, is that so? So, are you okay? The tone of my husband's voice completely changed to a serious one. I wonder what's going on. Well, if you're ever in trouble, just tell me, okay? I'm your big brother after all. With that, my husband hung up the phone. What happened? Is something wrong? My brother, he seems to have been laid off. What? Laid off? I was surprised. I never expected something like this to happen. Yeah, I heard the company was struggling, but I didn't expect him to be laid off. My husband sat down on a chair, looking downcast. I was also unable to hide my shock. My brother-in-law is the exact opposite of my husband. He is gentle, calm, and always humble. He treats me with respect as his sister-in-law, and even when my husband insults me in front of our relatives, he would defend me, saying, "Bro, that's not fair to Emily," and never fails to show consideration for me by apologizing. Sorry, Emily, for my brother's rude behavior. His wife is also a similar type of person, and I had a good impression of them as a couple. And now, he has been laid off. I started to think about what I could do for my brother-in-law and his wife. I want to help them, wanted to support them, even little. That's what I'm determined to do. Hey, isn't there something I can do? I asked my husband. He gave me a sharp look. What do you mean by something? Well, I was thinking, can't we do something to make your brother feel even a little better? At my words, my husband sighed heavily. You really are a hopeless woman. You, who haven't been out in the society, wouldn't understand this. He's going through the toughest time right now. To casually say if there's something we can do, outsiders should keep quiet. His aggressive attitude took me by surprise. I'd meant well, but it seemed I'd rubbed him the wrong way. Outsider? Aren't I a part of the family too? I asked my husband, almost pleadingly. Family? You're my wife, not my brother's. Unrelated. Outsider. His words struck me like a knife to the heart. I'd never seen my husband this aggressive before. His brother being laid off must have been a tremendous shock to him. But there are things you can and can't say. Just don't do anything unnecessary, he said before he walked out the door. After that, he became even more oppressive towards me. What's with this meal? Learn from my brother's wife. What did you do all day today? My brother's wife always keeps herself tidy and manages the household work perfectly, he barked. I'd never seen him be so unreasonable. I wondered what on earth had happened. Enough! What on earth happened to you? I finally snapped back at my husband. Shut up! Everything's a mess because of you, he blurted out, making no sense. I didn't know where to start with him. Before long, we weren't even making eye contact, and the gap between us was growing wider and wider. I began to question my relationship with my husband. One day, my husband started sorting out things in the morning. Like a thorough cleaning, he was sorting necessary and unnecessary items, steadily increasing the number of garbage bags. I wondered what he was up to, but our relationship had grown cold lately. I didn't have the energy to speak to him, so I didn't intervene in his. But unusually, he spoke to me. Hey, what are you doing? You should start packing too. Huh? Packing for what? We're moving out. I'm giving this house to my brother and his wife. What? What are you talking about? I found out that he intended to give the house where we were living to my unemployed and struggling brother-in-law and his wife. Wait a minute. Why are you doing this all of a sudden? Shut up! Don't defy me! My husband shouted at me loudly, but I didn't back down. You said you wanted to do something for your brother, didn't you? That's a completely different issue. What are we supposed to do if we hand over the house? Where are we going to live? We'll figure that out later. My brother's in trouble right now, and as his elder brother, I need to help him. My husband was moving the conversation along entirely on his own. To begin with, my brother-in-law was not the kind of person to kick us out and move into someone else's house brazenly. Despite this, why? As I gave my husband a suspicious look, he handed me something. If all you're going to do is talk back, you're of no use to me anymore. We're getting a divorce. Get out of here, right now. He threw at me the divorce papers already filled out. I couldn't believe he was proposing divorce. Stunned by my husband's unexpected move, I could only stand there. And yet, it felt strangely appropriate. I didn't feel like we could continue as a couple even if we stayed together. Maybe this is a good opportunity. I picked up the divorce papers that had fallen to the floor and signed them, without a word. My husband was watching me with a triumphant smile. His expression was so comical that I almost burst out laughing. When I had finished filling out the divorce papers, I turned to my husband. This house isn't yours, is it? Huh? This house is the one I lived in with my grandfather. And the land was his too. They both passed down to me, remember? At this, it was my husband's turn to be stunned. If it's in my name, how are you going to hand it over? Huh? How are you going to? I pressed my husband with questions. No. I mean, my husband suddenly became flustered. Did you forget? You moved into my house before we got married because you thought it was a waste to pay rent. I've been paying the property taxes on the house and land every year because they're in my name, and you haven't given me a penny. Well, it doesn't matter anymore. Once these papers are filed, our divorce will be finalized, and we'll be strangers. Wait a minute. Let's calm down. Calm down? That's my line. You're handing out divorce papers like it's nothing. How selfish can you be? It's unbelievable. I unloaded all my pent-up frustrations on my husband. I loved my husband, and I thought he loved me too. But maybe that was just my misunderstanding. I never expected the end of our marriage to come so quickly. Emily, wait. This is a misunderstanding. Let's have a talk. Talk about what? You were the one who brought up divorce first, weren't you? I've had enough of you. Saying this, I carefully put away the filled-out divorce papers. It's a holiday today, and I'll submit them first, tomorrow morning. My husband lay on the floor in a daze. No, this can't be, he muttered. I said coldly, without any sympathy, "This is my house. Please leave immediately. Once the papers are filed, we'll be strangers. I can't live under the same roof with a stranger." My husband grumbled until the moment he left, but I did not waver at all. After all, he's a stranger now. There's no need to show any mercy. Even when my husband cried and clung to me, I didn't feel anything. And then my husband left the house as if resigned to his fate. News of my divorce from my husband spread quickly at his company. He was immediately looked down upon at work, I heard. Rumors about the reasons for our divorce and my husband's behavior throughout our married life spread in great detail. It seemed my husband had entirely lost his place at his company. I really wonder who started and propagated these rumors. All I did was answer the questions his colleagues and subordinates asked me, and nothing more. Then, about 6 months after our divorce, I ran into a person I'd rather not see when I was returning from the real estate agency. It was my husband. Well, since we're divorced, he's my ex-husband now. It seemed like he had been lying in wait for me to come out of the agency. The whole situation was quite unsettling. Even when I tried to ignore him, he continued to follow me persistently. Finally, out of patience, I reluctantly agreed to talk with him. "Enough! If you have something to say, just say it quickly. Emily, I've always despised you," he declared. What? His sudden proclamation left me baffled. It turned out he had been blaming me for his brother's layoffs. Huh? Why would that be my fault? Ever since we got married, bad things just kept happening, he insisted. Indeed, after we got married, unfortunate events, like his parents passing away and him getting injured, occurred. But his father was already hospitalized before we got married, and his mother was always frail. His injury was a result of his own drunken clumsiness. He tripped over a curb and broke his wrist. Still, in his mind, it seemed like I was the person responsible for all the misfortune. So you think I was the cause of all the misfortune, and that's why you hated me? I always thought you were just a bit awkward, but you were simply despising me, huh? I was thoroughly exasperated with him. He just kept blaming everyone else without taking any responsibility. There was no basis for his accusations. I couldn't believe someone like him managed to be a supervisor at his company. I began to worry about his subordinates, fearing they might be unjustly criticized for no reason. When did this reliable superior turn into such a person? And I felt a bit pitiful for having been married to someone like him. But even after divorcing you, bad things have kept happening to me. What kind of bad things? At my question, he rolled up his sleeves. There were exposed, painful-looking burns from a fire. Actually, my apartment burned down 3 months ago. But that's not all. I lost my wallet, making mistakes at work. Plus, my brother's been acting cold to me and hasn't been in touch recently. So even after we split, his misfortunes continued. Well, that's to be expected. To be honest, hearing such stories doesn't make me feel sympathetic or sorry for him at all. After all, these are all consequences of his own actions, and I have nothing to do with them. Please, Emily, come back to me. I can't do it without you, okay? We've been a couple for so long. Didn't I take care of various things when you were still a working woman? And didn't I help you so much when your grandfather passed away? Didn't I? Looking at this man in front of me, trying to guilt trip me. I felt a chill run down my spine. All your misfortunes are from your actions that took. Maybe you should take a good look at yourself and do something about your bad habit of blaming others for everything. With that, I walked away from him. Emily! Wait up! Emily! Emily! My ex-husband was trying to catch my attention, calling out my name. I pretended not to know him and disappeared into the crowd. In fact, about a week after our divorce, I received a call from my brother-in-law. Or rather, my former brother-in-law. Emily, well, you're not my sister-in-law anymore, aren't you? Sorry, but it's about my brother. According to what my former brother-in-law told me, the decision to give up the house to his brother was my ex-husband's own choice. He and his wife had no idea about it. My brother has always been prideful. It's always worried me. His attitude towards you, Emily, was terrible. My wife and I felt so sorry watching it all. He truly is a kind-hearted person. I wonder how two brothers could be so different. I don't know if it's okay to say this, but I think it was good that you divorced. I want you to be happy, Emily. Thank you. I'm glad to hear you say that. Then he told me he found a job quite soon and that he was somehow making ends meet. I'm so glad for him. I'm thinking about distancing myself from my brother. I guess my former brother-in-law must have had his own thoughts about it. He intends to gradually lose contact with his brother, my ex-husband. The reason why my ex-husband couldn't reach his real brother was because of this. My ex-husband, who divorced his wife and was estranged from his beloved younger brother, was truly alone. I hope he realizes the weight of the mistakes he's made. But before that, I need to disappear from his sight. On the day I met my ex-husband again, I had just signed a contract with a real estate agent to rent out the house I inherited from my grandfather. The house is too big for me, but I can't just let go of the house full of memories with my grandfather. I'd rather have someone who wants to live there reside in it. I'll change my cell phone number and where I live, and completely cut off my relationship with my ex-husband. I'm only 35 years old. I still have a long life ahead of me.